The stakes couldn't be higher for the US-China trade talks underway in Beijing. The world's two largest economies are at loggerheads because Washington says China is giving unfair advantages to its producers and stealing intellectual property from US companies. They're raising tariffs on each other's goods, and global economic growth is taking a hit. But US President Donald Trump says a compromise is on its way.
I think we will make a deal with China. I really think they want to. I think they sort of have to. And I think we're going to have a great relationship. I think that President Xi and myself have a great relationship.
The two sides are discussing intellectual property rights for foreign companies in China, non-tariff barriers, as well as simplification of agricultural purchases. They have until the 1st of March to reach an agreement. That will be the end of a 90-day truce they declared in their trade war. If no deals reached by then, Trump has promised to raise tariffs on Chinese goods worth $250 billion from 10% to 25%. Publicly, Beijing insists it's done nothing wrong and says both sides must make concessions to resolve the dispute.
Properly resolving the current issues between China and the US, including the economic and trade issues, can benefit the two countries and the world. Both sides have the responsibility to create the necessary positive atmosphere for this.
But it's taken several steps to address Washington's concerns. It's resumed US soybean imports and introduced a law to protect the intellectual property rights of foreign companies on the mainland. China's economy is slowing, so it's eager to restore relations with its biggest buyer. But the outcome of these talks will reach far beyond these two countries and will impact global trade and growth for this year and beyond. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, John McLaren joins us now from Charlottesville in the United States. He's a professor of economics at the University of Virginia. Welcome back to the programs. We heard there are a lot of issues on the agenda over these 2 days of talks. Tell us, what do you think are the most contentious or the most pressing issues that need to be covered?
Well, probably the one biggest substantive issue is the joint ventures in FDI. You know, when a foreign multinational sets up shop to produce something in China. In the past, China required them to establish a joint venture with a local Chinese firm, and that would involve sharing their technology. And now most of those restrictions are gone. Most of them were gone as part of China joining the WTO, but there still are quite a lot of restrictions out there. And most of the automobile operations have some joint venture participation, and aircraft, and most of the service sectors, the financial sector, almost all of the FDI has some kind of joint venture participation. The Americans would like to see that part of foreign direct investment in China liberalized a lot, so that the foreign firms are able to set up a wholly owned subsidiary in China across the board. So there's a lot of room for China to open up those rules quite a bit.
And it is that requirement that US President Donald Trump says allows for the theft of US intellectual property. Do you think that's the case? Is this big of an issue as Donald Trump makes it out to be?
Well, I think the Americans are. It's a real issue. I think the Americans are exaggerating it because the Chinese government has been really systematically loosening those restrictions up a lot in recent years. So it's only really in the financial services and the other services sector that it remains a really big issue. So I think that is an area in which there is a lot of room for compromise that would be palatable to both sides.
We also know that this trade war has been bruising for both sides. It's affected industries in both the United States and in China. Who do you think has the upper hand going into these latest negotiations?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. As things stand now, the U.S. has the upper hand in the sense that we import about $500 billion worth of of things from them every year, and they import under $200 billion from us every year. So we buy a lot more from them than they do from us. So if the weapon that people are going to turn to in order to force the other side to concede is an import tariff, well, we've got a lot more imports to attack with the tariffs than they do from us. But you know, that's taking a narrow view. If things got really nasty, China could do a lot more harm to us than I think we could to them, because almost our entire manufacturing supply chain runs through China.
Yes.
And it would be very easy for the government to slow that down and mess it up. But they don't want to disrupt their hard-earned reputation as a good place to do business, a favorable business climate.
Okay, John McLaren, we will have to leave it there, but as we know, there's one whole day left of negotiations. We'll see how they go. Thank you again for your time.